People that enjoy scary movies often watch them solely to get a simple rush of adrenaline, a straightforward plot, a terrifying monster or mystery that is eventually explained, and a conclusive ending. These are the qualities that many people seek in an entertaining, scary movie. There is a reason that so few horror films ever glimpse the pinnacle of cinema greatness, and are often derided by critics. Horror tends to cater to the senses rather than the intellect. That is not always the case. When the rare film appears that both frightens and encourages healthy debate, that is something I consider most precious. The topic of this video is one such film, a slow-burn horror that leaves the viewer with as many questions as it does feelings of unease. It Follows is a film that at first glance seems dreamlike, nebulous in both setting and time. Though the movie was released in 2014, the year the movie takes place is never explicitly stated, and trying to extrapolate such information based on scenes within the film is curiously difficult. It Follows prefers to focus its efforts instead on the characters, their relationships, and how they react to the presence of the film's terrifying antagonist, the entity, or even more succinctly, it. Written and directed by David Robert Mitchell, It Follows debuted in 2014 at the Cannes Film Festival and was then released to a wider audience in 2015. The film was praised for its original screenplay, unsettling atmosphere, and symbolism. As stated earlier, the film is deliberately enigmatic in establishing a set time period. Clues to this fact are littered throughout the film, and the viewer would be forgiven for missing them. The technology observed encompasses a vast spectrum of periods, from black and white films to vintage cars. Yet the movie feels like it is in the present, perhaps occurring less than a few years before it was released. As explained by the director, this deliberate obfuscation is meant to convey a sense of dreaminess, an almost Kafkaesque world where one is utterly at the mercy of a power far exceeding their comprehension of it. This is further evidenced by the lack of any discernible season. Characters go from swimming outdoors to wearing sweaters as trees turn brown and gold. As in a dream, neither time nor the laws of nature exist, merely the self and the urges that guide it. If the film takes place within a dream, few would argue that that dream is a nightmare. While the time period may be esoteric, the threat posed by the entity is not. The entity, or curse if you prefer, is nothing overtly threatening at first glance, but that is precisely why it is so deadly. Passed from one person to the next through intercourse, the entity slowly stalks their victim endlessly. Never moving faster than a casual walk, the entity is tireless and virtually unstoppable. It will follow its victim to the ends of the earth until they are either caught, or they are able to pass it on to another host. While a tireless being that pursues you indefinitely is certainly frightening enough, it pales in comparison to how the entity is able to ambush its victims. Through means never explicitly shown, the entity can perfectly mimic any person. While its behavior of slowly advancing toward the victim while staring at them menacingly remains unchanged, the ability to become anyone it wishes remains nevertheless powerful. Even more disturbing is the fact that the people it becomes is not believed to be random, but rather a strategy, indicating an otherworldly intelligence. On several occasions, the entity becomes someone that the victim knows. However, whether it does this to momentarily confuse them or to cause psychological distress is unknown. All that is known is that it can morph into new shapes instantaneously, though it never seems to do this while in view of others. The implication is skin-crawling. Take your eyes off of a friend or loved one for even a moment, and they may become the last thing you ever see. The ambiguity surrounding the entity is what makes it so effective. Even the first victim, Hugh, that passes the curse to Jay, only speaks of the creature in seemingly anecdotal ways. No one knows where it came from, why it kills in the manner it does, or why its preferences are centered around sexuality. No one knows its weaknesses or limitations, aside from merely transferring the curse to another. Despite being wounded and seemingly killed more than once, the entity merely rises again, continuing its ceaseless advance. Though fairly new in comparison to other films I've covered on this channel, It Follows is a brilliant example of the potential the genre has. The entity, though lacking scales, fangs, weapons, or any other typical attributes of a classic monster, nevertheless remains starkly nightmarish. Many have interpreted the entity to be a metaphor for promiscuity in young adults, while others believe it to be more specifically about sexually transmitted diseases. I believe it is more so a commentary on the need to survive despite the inevitability of death. Consider the first encounter after Hugh and Jay have sex. Racked with guilt but still driven by a need for self-preservation, Hugh abducts Jay by force and then makes her sit until the creature appears. In the film's own twisted way, Hugh reveals his affliction to Jay only after they've had sex. He then sets her loose with nothing more than parting advice: pass it on. This tense exchange speaks to the powerful drive for self-propagation. Even when faced with our own inescapable demise, we rarely relinquish our baser urges. Love, sex, connection. These are things that we each seek despite the knowledge that it is all temporary. Death comes for us all, often slow, but hardly ever recognizable. And so we each must do what we can to press on, even if only for another day. After all, what purpose is there in life if we do not live? Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content and would like to see more, please check out my other episodes on classic monsters from our favorite movies. If there's a creature or villain you'd like to see in a future episode, feel free to comment them below. I'm always seeking inspiration for new content.